That's where we begin our coverage with a new federal bill that would ban employers from hiring replacement workers during a strike. It was a key demand from the NDP when it agreed to support the Liberals' minority government.
The Liberals would never have done this. They would have never tabled this legislation but for the fact that New Democrats and Labour together fought to make this happen.
Unions are applauding the legislation, but the business community warns it could lead to longer strikes. Here to respond to all this is the Federal Labour Minister, Seamus O'Regan. Minister, thanks for making time for us.
Thanks for having me, JP.
So Labour unions are happy today with you. What's in it for workers?
Well, first of all, the first time I heard Mr. Singh at his press conference, we absolutely would have done it. It was on page 22 of our platform. And it's in keeping with what we've been doing with unions in support of workers throughout this mandate. Paid sick leave. We've got a union-led advisory table that's going to be working on automation and AI that's going to be up and going very, very soon. We've got sustainable jobs legislation that's currently at committee. So this isn't, to correct Mr. Singh, who frankly wasn't at the table for this at all. We absolutely would have done this. Having said that, I will say that, having worked with Alexandre Boulerice chiefly on this, it is a far richer and better piece of legislation as a result. What's in it for workers? I think ultimately it's something that workers in this country have been wanting for a long time. I mean, one person told me that, the Canadian labour movement has been demanding this longer than Canada itself, longer than we've been a country. This brings some balance to the table. It's something that we've always kind of taken for granted. I will say I'm amongst those people who would think replacement workers have always been there, but should they be? I think that's the difficult question that we had to ask. Should they be? You don't have, replacement employers. I mean, it didn't make for a balanced table. Everybody had gotten used to it. And I think that's why, some business, may find this disruptive in the beginning. And by the way, to the business community who managed to get tweets out from the moment we dropped it on the table so they didn't have a chance to read it and immediately condemned it, read the bill. Just read the bill. Read the details in it. We worked quite hard at it. And I can tell you, and I've got a pretty good track record on this, whether it be WestJet or CP Rail or, this summer on BC Ports, stability and certainty and maintaining our supply chains are of the utmost importance to me. And in this case, we were able to do this while respecting the dignity of organized labor in this country, who are essential to maintaining those supply chains.
You mentioned
I think we've kind of squared the circle.
You mentioned that business is not all that thrilled with it. We know that Bell, TELUS, CN Rail, 3 federally regulated companies that could be affected by this have lobbied against this sort of legislation in the past. They say that this sort of bill threatens their networks and their ability to operate during a strike. What do you say to them?
Just focus on the table, as they always have. I mean, to be honest with you, 96% of the time in federally regulated industries, I'm not on the show. We get the deals done 96% of the time, partially because we have an excellent mediation and conciliation service here in the federal government. And, when I mention them, all the union heads behind me and all the MPs from either party all nodded their heads. They know them. They have an incredible reputation for getting deals done. So we're really just talking about the 4% that are left. But, I want the deals to be done at the table. I don't want to have to be coming on this show having either to talk about replacement workers or back to work legislation, or more commonly, the threat of either. Because the problem with the threat of either of those things is it deviates attention and energy away from the table, and that's where the deals are done. So I am interested in stability and certainty in our supply chains and in our economy overall. And now we are, I think, going some way to balancing that, to ensuring that stability.
I want to read you just a brief comment here from Robert Giz, who's the head of the telecommunications group. And he says that one of the main negative consequences of this bill, or the potential consequences, is that Canadians will not be able to access 911 in an emergency if this legislation goes through, if there is a strike, because there might not be people on the job to actually operate these cell networks. Is that a risk? Should Canadians prepare for cell service to go down if there's a work stoppage at one of these carriers?
Again, the fact that I had business decrying this at 1 minute after we laid it on the table, they couldn't have seen it beforehand, tells me, I don't know, did they read the bill? Because if they read the bill, they would know that a pivotal part of it is maintenance of activities. That means that the employer and the union, at the very beginning of a bargaining, they've got to sit down and they've got to decide, okay, what's essential to business, what's essential to people, what's essential to health and safety of workers, what's essential to health and safety, what's essential to the environment, what's essential to the workplace, making sure that there's a workplace to come back to that's intact. All of those things must be decided. If the parties can't do it within 14 days, then the CIRB, the Canada Industrial Relations Board, will do it for them within 90 days. So maintenance of activities and essential maintenance of activities will be maintained and will be decided upon by the parties themselves. They are the responsible people here. We've entrusted in some ways supply chains to them, whether it be telecommunications or rail or whatever, and both as an employer and workers. So, do the deal, guys. Do the hard work. That's what I would say to them. It's there. I'd be interested to know when Mr. Giz posted that tweet.
Does the exceptions to health and safety, you mentioned those two subjects, does that apply, though, to 911, say, on a wireless carrier?
Well, we'd have to look into that, but I can tell you that there is plenty of room to negotiate that and talk about that. So I don't know where Mr. Giz is getting that from, but I can tell you that we now have the tools in place to make sure things like that do not happen.
This could, though, drive up the cost of business, right? Entrepreneurs might think twice about setting up shop here. Other companies may pack up and move away because this legislation could make their labor costs more onerous. Does that concern you? We've
got defined timelines now. I mean, with the maintenance of activities piece, for instance, it's 14 days, and then after that, the CIRB comes back with 90 days. I can tell you that, going out there at BC ports, where, the possibility of replacement workers, I guess, was out there, but, that didn't do anything for stability or certainty. At all, actually, and there was nothing definitive in which to hang our hat on. Now, I've been on this show and talked about, we are taking a very careful look right now at the setup out in BC, primarily because I don't want to have to go through that again. I want to focus on stability and certainty in our supply chains. But frankly, I think replacement workers is a boogeyman. I think that the business has been carting it out there, when in fact I really do believe, take that off and concentrate on the table, on the deals that need to get done. Those deals are there to be had, and 96% of the time, they get them. Whether it's Bell or whether it's somebody else, they find those deals. They do not. They do the vast majority of the time. I think they should give themselves more credit.
The CFIB, let's throw another one at you. The Canadian Federation of Independent Business, they're also out saying it's bad news for their members. They say the legislation will prolong the duration of strikes and increase their frequency. Why are they wrong?
Prove it to me. I fail to see the proof. I think if you concentrate on the table and you do the deal, then it's over as quickly as you want it to be over. Unions, there seems to be this false notion that union members want to go on strike. They don't want to go on strike. It is an absolute last resort for them. Most of them don't have strike funds, and then just the instability that comes with that. People still got to bring home enough money at the end of the day, and most people these days are unfortunately living check to check. The more this brings some pressure, no question. It brings pressure to employers and to unions to get a deal. I have no problem applying that pressure. I make a habit of doing it in the 4% of instances in which I have to come over and help out.
You heard Jagmeet Singh, you mentioned his comments, you want to fact check some of the things he said, but his point, I think, is that there was similar legislation before the House of Commons in 2016. The NDP introduced a bill that has similar provisions to what you've tabled here today, and the Liberals and the Conservatives voted against it at the time. So was it the Supply and Confidence Agreement that got you to introduce this legislation, or did you just have a come-to-Jesus moment, if you will, with this sort of thing?
They didn't consult. As you probably know, as Liberals, we do consult, and consult meaningfully. We derive an awful lot from that, so that's why we voted against it. Also, we've got a very proud history in this country of tripartitism, of business and unions and government sitting down together to discuss some of the larger issues that face us, and some of the smaller ones as well. And that's something that, under my watch and under this government's watch, we were only enriching with the union-led advisory table, with talking about energy transition and making sure that unions are at the forefront of that. We really do believe in workers, and we really do believe that they are utterly essential in this extraordinarily tight labor market. Their ideas are essential. I want them leading these tables. No, this is, what they did before was they did not consult business, so that's not in the spirit of tripartitism. That's why we voted against it. And they didn't meaningfully consult, which we did on this, by the way. I was at both consultations. They went on for 2 days. I even went to the time and trouble of making sure that the seating arrangements weren't just unions, business, government, but everybody was intermingled. And you know what? It was messy. It was a messy, disruptive meeting. This is a big deal, and I recognize it is somewhat disruptive perceptually because it's a change.
Right.
But I can tell you right now, it will bring more stability to the table, more balance, and more certainty, because people now will focus on the table and the table singularly, get the deal done.
All right. Thank you so much, Federal Labor Minister Seamus O'Regan. Appreciate your time, Minister.
Thank you, JP.
See you.